This video is brought to you by Wix. What's up guys, Jared again. Today I come to you with a simple question. Do you ever feel like the more anime you watch, the more it all starts to seem really familiar? That certain tropes are repeating themselves? That maybe you've seen one too many tournament arcs? Or that all the color-coordinated outfits are making you feel like you're staring at a strobe light? Or maybe one too many characters have learned the value of teamwork to win the day? Now sure, there's definitely something good to be said about familiarity. It's the reason why we have 30 seasons of The Simpsons, and why Always Sunny is still going strong. But if you're starting to notice some hard to pin down patterns in anime, it's probably because you've picked up on something deep within the fabric of the medium. And it all has to do with Imperial Japan? So sit back, crack open a cold one, and join me for this Wisecrack edition on the origins of anime. And spoiler alert for My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Black Clover, and The Irregular at Magic High School. But before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Wix. As some of you know, I've been trying to build a side hustle as a voiceover artist. I used to think that I didn't need a website, that I could just use a manager or one of those VO aggregator sites, but then I realized a personalized site was the most effective way to introduce people to my work. It gave me credibility to potential employers and enabled them to check out the samples of what I've done. With Wix, making a website is quite fun and allows you to create something that is immeasurably useful. Making a first impression is huge, and Wix makes nailing that first impression accessible to anyone, no matter how bad you are at computer stuff. If you've never made a website before, you can make one with any of their beautifully pre-designed templates. If you already have a website and are looking to upgrade, Wix is offering Wisecrack viewers 15% off all yearly plans. That means you will have more access to deeper insight on business analytics, an official domain, and so much more. So create your own website for free at wix.com/wisecrack, or if you're looking to take your site to the next level, use Wisecrack15 for 15% off all yearly plans. And now, on with the show. So imagine it, you're a teenager, and in typical angsty youth fashion, you think the world around you isn't that great. Maybe your home was smashed to bits and your mom was eaten by a literal giant. Or maybe you're just tired of being a fan and never the hero. Well, to change things, you decide to enroll in a special training program that gives you all the tools to make the world a better place. It could be a branch of the military, or a tricked out high school, or even just some weird scientist dudes who want you to fly giant robots, you know, as one does. While these may be dumbed down summaries of Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, and Gundam Wing, they all bear one obvious similarity: teenagers being trained to fight. And while there are 101 potential reasons for this, we at Wisecrack think it has to do with a little thing called the IRE. For those of you who aren't history buffs, the IRE, or the Imperial Rescript to Education, was an attempt by Imperial Japan starting in 1890 to reshape Japanese school life with the aim of making good citizens and better soldiers. In the IRE's own words, its mission was to train students to advance public good and promote common interests. Always respect the Constitution and observe the laws. Should emergency arise, offer yourselves courageously to the state, and thus guard and maintain the prosperity of our imperial throne coeval with heaven and earth. And yeah, in a lot of ways, the IRE simply acted as a Japanese version of America's Pledge of Allegiance. In fact, it was recited every day in the Japanese classroom until the end of World War II. But the IRE also served a crucial political function in legitimizing the sitting government. See, in 1868, Japan's old regime was tossed aside, ushering in the Meiji government with its centralized power structure and its much more powerful emperor. This system was called Kokutai, roughly translating to a government forged on the relationship between benevolent emperor and loyal subjects. The question then becomes how to get your citizens to buy into this arrangement, and that's where the IRE comes in. Day in and day out, students are reminded to be loyal to a government that will take care of them. Where that loyalty ultimately takes you, well, you can probably guess. Now, you might think we're going full conspiracy theory by connecting an educational system that started 100+ years ago to modern anime. But then again, it goes a long way in explaining why only Japan seems so invested in creating franchises centered around kids literally fighting wars. Just think about it. How many Western series can you name where children join military academies, or regularly fight wars, either for the state or themselves? It's not many. Red Dawn, Ender's Game, Hunger Games, kinda, or Harry Potter, where Harry has to secretly train an army outside the knowledge of adults. But these are tenuous examples at best. Looking at our boy HP, Defense Against the Dark Arts was a single class the students were required to take, and if it wasn't for Voldemort showing up, fighting battles and creating a military resistance like Dumbledore's army wouldn't have happened. Instead, Harry and crew would just graduate, go work at the Ministry of Magic or any one of the many private magical businesses that exist in the world, and war would never be brought up. On the other hand, how many Japanese series involve school-aged children fighting wars? The list is very long. Just to name a few, we got My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Black Clover, Gundam Wing, Sailor Moon, Naruto, Beelzebub, Cromartie, Angel Densetsu, Girls und Panzer, The Irregular Magic High School, Kill la Kill, it goes on. And here's the crazy thing. When you start to peel back a lot of the plot elements common in these shows, you start to see a unique relationship between education and the government military. In My Hero Academia, for example, the profession of pro hero is sponsored and regulated by the state.
彼らは活躍に応じて与えられるんだ。国から収入を、人々から名声を。
And specialized high schools like UA Academy, which train children to fight and enforce strict rules of conduct, all again come top down from the government. For example, when Ida goes after the hero killer for hospitalizing his older brother, Stain reminds him of the hero creed.
自らを顧みず他を救い出せ。己のために力を振るうな。
Likewise, Midoriya and Todoroki are almost expelled for using their powers to save Ida, again in violation of government rules.
資格未取得者が保護管理者の指示なく個性で危害を加えたこと。たとえ相手がヒーロー殺しであろうとも。
Similarly, in the Irregular Magic High School, we find out our hero, Shiba Tetsuya, enrolled in an elite, state-funded school for training magicians.
国立魔法大学附属第一高校。魔法技能士育成のための国策機関であるこの学校に入学を許されたこと自体、魔法という希少な才能を認められたエリートである。
But did we also mention that this world also saw a literal World War III breakout, which left nations scrambling to grow their magical firepower?
そして21世紀末、不安定な情勢下で各国は魔法師の育成に競って取り組んでいた。
We also see this state military educational complex play out in a much more literal fashion in Attack on Titan, in which Eren and co join an army training camp at the ripe age of 14. And did we mention the state-directed value system at play here?
あの恫喝には何の意味が？
通過儀礼だ。それまでの自分を否定して、まっさらな状態から兵士に適した人材を育てる。そのために必要な過程だ。
And sure, while Attack on Titan might be a bit more on the nose, both series are predicated on young children essentially sacrificing themselves for the state. In this sense, the IRE is very much alive. Should emergency arise, offer yourselves courageously to the state. Keeping all this militarized education in mind, we start to see how clever variations of Japanese school life seem less than innocent in a lot of our favorite shows. For example, while many schools in Japan have a cultural festival and a sports festival, these festivities take on a more militaristic tone. In My Hero Academia, the UA Sports Festival seems innocent enough, with students running an obstacle course, competing in team-based combat exercises, and finally, fighting in single battle eliminations. This may seem more like an Iron Man event mixed with a UFC tournament, but it's also very visibly a military skills tournament. The team-based event, which requires 3 members to carry the 4th, evokes real-life platoon-based combat competitions, such as the Swiss Raid Commando. In this context, Midoriya, sitting at the top, would be akin to the captain of his platoon, in this case Hatsumi, Uraraka, and Tokoyami. Midoriya would then have to decide how best to use the squad's different abilities to achieve victory against other platoons, and this is exactly what Midoriya does.
僕らに足りなかった防御力、それを補ってあまりある全方位中距離防御。すごいや、徳闇君。
選んだのはお前だ。
In the Irregular Magic High School, this militarism is turned up to the max in their sports festival equivalent, the 9 Schools Tournament. And yes, some of the games students compete in seem innocent enough, like this weird flying ball collecting game, but the main attraction is literally a combat simulation. It's essentially capture the flag, but with magical weapons. And tellingly, Tetsuya's biggest rival Masaki, a combat veteran despite being a high schooler himself, even uses lethal force by accident in this event.
しまった、加減が。このままでは殺してしまう。
Of course, Tetsuya's ridiculously overpowered, so I guess it was alright. Hell, if we really wanted to, we could take this militaristic spin on the tournament arc one step further with Black Clover. In it, teenager and magically inept Asta competes in the Royal Knights selection exam, which amounts to a series of 3v3 battles. The whole purpose? To be selected for an elite squad that would take on a terrorist organization. But across all these franchises, kids are rewarded in the same way: state-sponsored prestige. In My Hero Academia, they get offered exclusive internships with pro heroes. In the irregular Magic High School, they get military offers or even opportunities to marry into prestigious families.
例えばサイグスはどうだ？
どうだというのはもしかして結婚相手にどうだという意味ですか?
In Black Clover, their performance earns them a spot in what essentially amounts to the Magical Marines. Think of all these tournaments kind of like trying out for a school team or being recruited by a private military contractor. But there are also more subtle variations on Japanese school life that harken back to Imperial Japan, the IRE, and its military focus, such as costumes and uniforms. In anime, costumes often serve to both unify the team while simultaneously distinguishing the members. Think Sailor Moon, or even the non-animated but still Japanese Power Rangers. My Hero Academia, though, really takes the cake on this one. As the great hero All Might explains, a costume is meant to enhance the individual quirk of its wearer. Bakugo's crazy grenade hands help him gather the nitroglycerin in his sweat, and Deku's reinforced boots, well, they keep him from going all floppy noodle again. However, in combat, the emphasis is rarely on the individual in My Hero Academia. Instead, Class 1A is expected to work as a group, harkening back to the Meiji idea of Sentai. While initially coined to describe a unit of the Japanese Navy and later Air Force, Sentai has been broadened in modern times to mean team. Power Rangers, for example, is called Super Sentai in Japan. And unlike a lot of modern American franchises that focus on the individual, not you Avengers, My Hero Academia and Japanese media as a whole is largely concerned with stories of a team pulling together. In My Hero Academia, this translates to heroes using their individual costumes and quirks to achieve a common goal. It's like when Todoroki cools down Ida's booster so he can take another hit at Stain, while Midoriya performs a nimble rescue mission. Or when Midoriya makes use of everyone's quirks to rescue Bakugo from the League of Villains.
作戦はこうだ。僕の個性と飯田君のレシプロで、まず推進力。そして霧島君の効果で壁をぶち抜く。開けた瞬間すぐさま轟君の氷結で道を形成してほしい。なるべく高く飛べるよ。
Of course, a broader emphasis on Sentai is seen across all of our franchises here, costume or not. In more literal takes on this idea, series like Attack on Titan and Black Clover aren't predicated on individuals winning or losing battles, but rather the team overcoming adversity together. We saw this particularly in the latest season of Attack on Titan, in which all of our characters have a small role to play in securing a bigger victory, even if this comes at the cost of their life. For example, when all hope seems lost in the fight against the Beast Titan, Erwin must choose between his dream, finding out the truth of this world,
そして今手を伸ばせば届くところに答えがある
and the Scout Corps' only chance of victory, a last-ditch cavalry rush led by Erwin himself. Of course, Erwin chooses the latter at the cost of his own life, which allows Levi to turn the tide and give the Scouts a victory. And yeah, that scene was epic. On top of embodying the concept of Sentai in motion, these shows also function as microcosms for the greater Imperial government. In the same way that the Emperor was good and therefore demanded loyalty, the cause, whether it's defeating villains or reclaiming your freedom or protecting the kingdom, also demanded your loyalty, and sometimes your life. Now, if this all vaguely sounds like anime is a mouthpiece for these imperial ideas, it's not entirely a coincidence. Around the 1930s, Imperial Japan's cultural ministry actually dictated that films must promote national polity themes. In other words, films had to advance the wartime cause, and true to form, the first full-length anime film ever made has the war effort's fingerprints all over it. A 74-minute blast from the past called Momotaro Sacred Sailors has everything an American would ascribe to mid-20th century animation. Black and white graphics, plucky, cute cartoon heroes, and yeah, a lot of disturbing socio-political commentary. Momotaro was actually commissioned by the Japanese Navy in 1944, right at the height of the war effort. In the film, a band of animal friends say goodbye to their homes, become high-ranking generals, and, liberate an island of, let's say, primitive animals from British rule. And to really give a finger to the West, Momotaro tacks on an epilogue with children pretending to parachute into America. Obviously, there's a vast difference between modern anime and its propaganda-inspired predecessors, but that doesn't mean we can't recognize some echoes from the past. Yeah, we might mock the literal and figurative black and white depictions of good and evil in Momotaro, but this same simplistic binary plays out in anime all the time. It all comes back to the last statement of the IRE. Students must guard and maintain the prosperity of our imperial throne, coeval with heaven and earth. In other words, your emperor isn't just your emperor. He's chosen by the heavens. He is your god, and he is good. Conversely, of course, is that this is your enemy, and he is 100% certified evil. Now, in the real world, you might realize how this logic of sacrificing yourself for the godhead might be less than ideal when it ends up with you dive-bombing your plane into military targets. But at least in anime, the implications of this relationship are a little less apparent. You might recall a specific father-like godhead in the form of Zordon, which is a literal floating head bossing around our aforementioned teenagers in Power Rangers. Then there's My Hero Academia. On one level, the explicit superhero framing of the show lulls the audience into a sense of comfort about the stark divide between heroes and villains. In fact, the world of My Hero even indulges in this framing. Instead of running from danger, citizens of this world flock to see who's fighting in the latest battles. These fights end up being broadcasted on a blow-by-blow basis, turning what is best described as a war zone into a live TV spectacle. But when we pull back this superhero framing, we start to see the same simple divide. In the world of My Hero, the all-benevolent emperor is seemingly replaced by All Might, i.e. the literal symbol of peace. Yet by having justice abstracted into a single symbol, the world of My Hero enshrines this binary. If All Might is, well, all good, that implies that his enemies are the opposite, or all bad. Sure, the hero killer Stain has a unique philosophy on what makes a hero, but this philosophy only further enshrines All Might as the moral center of this world. When it comes down to it, no matter how interesting Stain's motivation is, it in no way endears him to the audience and in no way makes him less of a ruthless killer. And the other villains aren't much better. Shigaraki literally kills anything he touches and has his sights on destroying all of society. And All for One is so evil that he's attracted a nearly mythic origin story.
彼は人々から個性を奪い、圧倒的な力によってその勢力を広げていった。計画的に人を動かし、思うままに悪行を積んでいった彼は、瞬く間に悪の支配者として日本に君臨した。
Of course, some series try to deconstruct this dichotomy a little bit more. I think Attack on Titan has perhaps the most success in this degree. Early on, the show sets up a strong central conflict. Humanity is besieged by literally unthinking titans and locked in a battle for survival. Again, we see our two binaries standing firm. All that's good in humanity and the military on one end, and all that's bad in the titans on the other. But once it's revealed that Eren can transform into a titan, the show blows this conflict wide open, as Erwin shrewdly asks Eren,
敵は何だと思う?
And over the course of 3 seasons, we start to see the truth of Erwin's words. Their enemies aren't just titans, they're other humans. Humans like Annie, who feel compelled to fight against the people of the walls for family reasons. Humans like Reiner, who under the weight of being a double agent has literally experienced a psychotic break. Eren and co even discover their own government, including other divisions of the military, is in fact part of the problem, bent on keeping humanity locked within its walls. Even when it's revealed that the whole world views the people of the walls as their enemy, Eren seems to hint at his discomfort at fighting the rest of humankind for his freedom.
向こうにいる敵全部殺せば俺たち自由になれるのか?
In doing so, the show chips away at its initial promise that the government is good and that the enemy, the Titans, are bad. Instead, we're left in a moral gray zone, one which accurately reflects the complexity of war. There is no clear good and bad, just people. So what do you think, Wisecrack? Will we always see echoes of Japan's imperial past in anime, or are we going to see a growing self-awareness in the medium? kinda like what we see in One Punch Man or Attack on Titan. Let us know what you think by dropping us a line in the comments below. Thanks to all our patrons who support our channel and our podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and before you go, I want to give another shout out to Wix. Wix provides free web hosting so people like me can showcase their talents, passions, and create new professional opportunities. Right now, you can create your own website for free by going to wix.com/wisecrack and get 15% off all yearly plans when you use the code WISECRACK15. Check it out today, and as always, thanks for watching, guys. Peace.